All right, it's 3 o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here for this community Zoom Ask the Experts meeting. It's the first of what we hope will be several more informational meetings or webinars on this subject. I'm Larry Mills. I am the incoming president of the Rotary Club of Healdsburg Sunrise. I'm not president yet, but I'm incoming. Also participating in the meeting today are several other members of our Rotary Club, including Lance Cottrell, who's the moderator for this Zoom session, Diane Bucher, who will be monitoring the chat room. And I see Andy Esquivel. I'm not sure if there's anybody else other than Jay. Most importantly, Jay Beckwith, a champion of environmental sustainability, the spiritual leader of our club's environmental efforts, and the architect of our club's community project to protect butterflies and bees and their ecosystems. The basic concept of the project is to involve the community in planting seeds and starts of plants such as milkweed and poppies to provide habitat and a welcoming environment for pollinators such as monarch butterflies and bees. Earlier this month, Jay posted a general description of the project on Nextdoor and on social media to assess the level of interest in our community, and the response was overwhelming. We received over 200 contacts, followers, comments, et cetera, from people who want to participate. And in particular, there was an excellent response from teachers who want to involve students in their classrooms. So the club is now planning to distribute seeds, hopefully in early March sometime, to get the project underway. The plan for today is to provide information regarding the endangered status of pollinators and measures we can take to protect butterflies and bees. We're joined by a representative from the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. We have experts from Pollinator Partners of San Francisco and also local gardeners who have been active in fostering habitat for butterflies and bees. I will introduce the speakers as we go for their brief comments in due course. Before moving into the program itself, a couple of housekeeping announcements. Please keep your audio on mute when you're not speaking. We will hold an open question and answer session after these brief presentations, and you can hold your questions for then, but if you have questions, just burning questions, you may enter them in the chat room. And please include your email address if you would, because we may need to get back to you after the meeting with an answer to your question. And we will also post the answers on the group's Facebook page. For those of you who have difficulty in hearing, closed captioning is available. You can click on the closed caption item in the menu bar at the bottom of your Zoom screen and see essentially a real-time transcript of what people are saying. And at the end of the meeting, our moderator, Lance, is going to post a couple of poll questions that may be answered very quickly at the end so that we have some feedback on what's happened today. So hopefully this will all work seamlessly. If anybody is having difficulties with anything, please raise your hand or otherwise let us know. I'm not in control of the meeting, but perhaps Lance can fix or help fix any technical problems that arise. So now we're going to turn to our speakers. First, I want to introduce fellow Rotarian Katrina Zavalney. She is the executive director and founder of Aranya Solutions, which is also a host for this meeting. Aranya Solutions is a 501c3 nonprofit organization established in 2018 to work with communities around the world to support them in becoming resilient and self-sustaining. Katrina is going to briefly describe environmental projects of Rotary District 5130, which includes our area. Katrina, I think I see you there. You're on.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, and delighted to be here. We've got some really great things happening in District 5130 with the Rotary world, as well as connecting with local organizations and wisdom keepers, people who are very knowledgeable on these different subjects, and connecting them all together to do some projects. And we're really leading towards Earth Day, but kind of in this world, every day is Earth Day, so lots of different things can be happening. But a big push behind all this is Rotary has a new area of focus, which is, drumroll please, the environment. Protecting the environment. So that's why we're all getting on board and very excited and creating a lot of materials and resources to make it easy for people to be able to do something in their communities and neighborhoods and with their Rotary clubs. So Rotary has a vast network, and it's awesome to be part of it. And it's beautiful how much Rotary connects with the local neighbors and people in the environment, figuratively and literally in this respect. So really great to be part of this, and we're working on behind the scenes a bunch of templates and tools for people to help with their project development. So these educational webinars are part of that. So I will pass it back to you, and thank you very much for being here and doing what you all do for the environment.
Thanks, Katrina. Did you want to say a few words about the 4 projects of District 5130? Just a few words about that.
Yeah, so the 4 project areas right now are planting gardens. The second is rivers, river cleanup, or different kinds of river activities. And there will be a river cleanup on March 20th. So stay tuned. There's more information coming out on that, on the Eel River and the Russian River. And then, of course, our pollinator species and planting for pollinators, which is what we're doing here. And the 4th is planting trees, especially reforesting burned areas. So we're doing a lot of research on that right now, talking with the county and the state and possibly some private landowners to see some areas that can be reforested. So this is part of us getting some materials and information together, but if you're interested in planting gardens, or of course here with the pollinators, the rivers, or planting trees, keep a lookout for those things. We're putting out more information, but big push for planting gardens on Earth Day in particular.
Great, Katrina, thank you. By the way, if you hear barking in the background, my 2 dachshunds want me to take them for a walk. Sorry about that. I'll try to mute myself in just a moment. Now I want to welcome our guest speakers from Pollinator Partners, which is based in San Francisco. I'll give just a couple of sentences on each of them. First with us is Miles Dakin, whose title includes Bee-Friendly Farming Coordinator. I'm interested in learning more about that. Miles says he's had a lifetime passion and love for insects, and he recently received a master's degree in entomology from UC Davis. Along with Miles, from Pollinator Partners, we have Isaac Lisle, who is the database and systems manager at Pollinator Partners. Isaac has a BS in conservation biology from Union University in Tennessee, and he's now pursuing a Master of Environmental Management degree at the University of San Francisco. Miles and Isaac are going to tell us about Pollinator Partners and their activities and some online resources that are available to us. So take it away, Miles and Isaac, and you can divide your time any way you see fit.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Larry. Give me just a second. Oh, can I share my screen so I can share a few slides?
Sure, one sec. You're good to go.
Okay, great. So hopefully everyone can see this all right. Yeah, we are Pollinator Partnership. We're a nonprofit organization based out of the San Francisco area. My email's on this slide, so this is just going to be a really quick run through of just a few of our many resources and programs. So you can always feel free to reach back out to me if you have any follow-up questions, or if you need help with anything or help finding some of our other resources. And we really deal with all pollinators, so bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, bats, and we're North American in scope. So we have a lot of staff out east and some big programs out east, as well as Canada and Mexico as well. And as you probably know, there are all kinds of different issues that pollinators are dealing with. I think a lot of times we try to narrow it down to maybe just habitat loss or maybe just pesticides or climate change, but it's really a whole host of issues that are really interrelated with each other. And so we try to tackle all of these different areas. We call it the 4 Ps a lot: pasture, pesticide, pressure, parasites, and pathogens, which is like really 5 Ps. But yeah, we try to tackle all of these different issues. I've tried to pull a few of our more habitat related resources to share with you guys, but there's really a lot that you can find on our website. Our website is a pretty big place full of free resources, and there's a search bar at the top that can come in handy if you find yourself getting lost on there. So you can see this honeycomb graphic kind of outlines a lot of the different areas we're involved with really the goal of protecting all pollinators. So you can see at the bottom, convening all parties. All of what we do is really only possible because of partners. And that could be through just individual donors, but also different partner organizations and individuals who partner with us in just establishing garden habitat in their backyard, or different farmers and ranchers who partner with us to establish a little bit of habitat and look in on their pesticide practices. And then outreach kind of covers a lot of our different resources we have aimed at creating habitat, promoting stewardship. And then we do a little bit of policy work and our own research as well. Our signature initiatives would include Pollinator Week. And this is actually a graphic from last year. Our new graphics are going to be created and up online by the end of the month. They're usually up there by March. And it always starts the Monday right after Father's Day. So this year, that's actually the 21st through the 27th. And this is, you can think of it as similar to Shark Week. It's an awareness week for pollinators. And for the past 50 years, we've actually gotten a proclamation for this, for the past 5 years from all 50 governors. And this past year, we had over 350 events across the country, and we only held 2 of those. The rest of those are individuals or local organizations putting on their own event and registering it to our website and getting some publicity through us and really helping us spread our word and helping us with our mission. So here you can see an example of a map that we put up on our website where people have registered their events. And this past year, we added the option to register private events, not for other people to show up to, but that you can see how your socially distant event is part of a nationwide and really now a global celebration of pollinators. And you can go to pollinator.org and find the Pollinator Week section for lots of other information and resources on that. Like I said, this year it's June 21st through 27th. And we just came out with our new Pollinator Week toolkit, which you can find. Again, here's our URL to that specific Pollinator Week page. And the toolkit has some great ideas for activities and potentially some resources that might be useful in planning your Pollinator Week event. And all of this information online will be updated within the next 2 weeks here. Another really important resource and key initiative of ours was to create some eco-regional planting guides. So we actually have planting guides for all of the ecoregions in the continuous 48 states. And we also have Hawaii now covered. It's around 60 guides, and including Canada. So you can see this is for the Sierra and Steppe mixed forest. That covers part of the Healdsburg region. You can see a map there on page 7 in the guide if you look for it. But we also have other guides for all of the nearby surrounding regions. If you're not sure if some of those plants will work for you, you can always look at guides for neighboring regions. So here's an example of another guide for the California coastal chaparral forest. That's where we are here in San Francisco. And on the website, you can just enter your zip code or postal code if you're in Canada, and it'll pull up the guide for your region. And they're completely free to download, free to print off and distribute even for educational purposes. All of our resources are free to download and print off as long as you're not selling them. We also have a lot of resources to help with pesticide best practices. On the left, you can see a brochure for backyard gardeners, as well as a brochure for larger scale pesticide applicators. And then we also have this USB curriculum to help teach integrated pest management and best use practices. Just another snapshot of some of our various educational tools and outreach materials. Again, we have a lot of different brochures covering topics from faith and how different faiths integrate with pollinators to brochures on different pollinating species. Really, you name it, we probably have a brochure that covers it, as well as guidebooks on, for example, the bumblebees of the Western United States. And then also every year we have an annual poster. So last year's poster was Future Flies with Pollinators, and this year's poster will be announced and it will be released on Earth Day, actually. And I put up the different URLs here, but you can see they're all just under our stuff panel if you go to our website. Another initiative of ours is Monarch Wings across California. And these are actually some pictures of a planting we did at Russian River Vineyard. And you can find a lot of our Monarch resources at this URL here, including some guides that are really helpful for preparing land for planting and for maintenance after a planting. And a lot of those guides might have like Ohio in the title or be specifically designed for somewhere out east. But really a lot of the overall concepts will be applicable here in California as well. And then the last one of our programs that I want to cover before I hand it to Miles here real quickly is the Million Pollinator Garden Challenge and My Pollinators, My Story. So you can see we've registered well over 1 million pollinator gardens and registered the habitat that's associated with that. And now we're reaching out to people and asking, not only register your garden if you haven't yet, but if you have registered your garden, share your story with us. And so you can see this is a slide reel of photos that you can find on our website that is photos that people have submitted just from their garden. And we have a photo album that you can access where people have shared a little bit of their personal story, however much they wanted to share, and then some of their pictures. And we try to feature these fairly regularly on our social media accounts. And that brings us to Bee Friendly Farming. And Miles is going to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks, Isaac. Excuse me. And just to tag on, bee-friendly farming is just one of our small programs that we have. And it's a way for community members to get involved and participate. Bee-friendly farming was designed as a certification program for farmers and ranchers, but it's expanded to more than that. So now we can involve more community members, and we can involve sponsors and other partners. So we have 3 sort of subcategories within the program. Bee-friendly farming certified is that certification for ranches, wineries, and other commercial land use operations. I saw Dana from Jordan Winery is in here. They are one of our bee-friendly farming certified members. And I was just out there last Friday doing some planting with them as well. We have Bee-friendly farming partner, and that is for our commercial sponsors that want to support the program but aren't managing their own habitat. And if we have any beekeepers here, we also have an apiarist category within that, or subcategory within the subcategory. And then our last one is Bff Garden, and that's the newest one. What it is it's a way for non-commercial landscapes that are managing habitat. So if it's a community garden or a home gardener who wants to plant habitat, wants to adhere to the criteria for bee-friendly farming certified, but isn't looking for the logo use and isn't looking for the kind of commercial, commercial recognition that BFF certified members are looking for. So, just to give you a brief overview of what those criteria are, the biggest one is that, BFF certified members need to provide forage on at least 3% of their land. They need to provide diverse foraging throughout the growing season and permanent habitat, as well as offering clean water for bees and practicing integrated pest management. So BFF Garden members can adhere to that. They can get recognized for it. They pay a little tiny annual membership fee to help support the program. That money goes to us doing this kind of work, partnering with people, and as well as hope. In the past, we've had seed grants, we've had other programs like that. And we also have a newsletter where we can share people's stories, similar to My Pollinator, My Story, but with a bee-friendly farming focused on it. So it's a great little program to get involved. So if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always available. Yeah, thanks.
Great. Thank you, Isaac and Miles. I'm sure there are some questions, but as I said at the outset, we'll reserve them till the end and hear from our other speakers, and then there'll be an open time for questions. And I have some questions for you as well. So let's move forward. We now have 3 speakers who are local gardeners who are providing habitat for butterflies and bees. And I'll briefly introduce each one of them in turn so they know what's coming. I'll introduce one, the person will speak, I'll introduce the next one, etc. So first is Suzanne Clarke of Sonoma County Butterfly Alliance. Suzanne is a master gardener who lives in Petaluma. She's been a gardener all her life, including over 20 years of living on Chesapeake Bay, where she was an elementary school teacher. So I'll turn it over to Suzanne.
Thank you very much. And Lance, I'd like to share the screen too, please.
You should be able to.
Okay. Okay, what kind of garden do you have? Do you have a caterpillar garden, a butterfly garden, or a caterpillar and butterfly garden? Is there a way the home gardener can help bring back our butterflies? Where do we start, with the butterfly, the egg, a caterpillar, or the plant? Like all insects, caterpillars and butterflies have 3 body parts: head, thorax, abdomen. So here is a complete metamorphosis of a butterfly, so 4 stages in the life cycle. The important thing is that the larva does not resemble the adult. Oops. So the larva doesn't resemble the adult? Is that difference really so very important? Absolutely. All caterpillars, no matter if they're hairy or smooth or colorful or not, have a mouth and a jaw to chew leaves and flowers. And these are monarch caterpillars. While all butterflies, no matter how big or small or colorful or not they are, sip nectar from flowers through a proboscis, which is that little curly piece there. They have no mouth parts. So if the anatomies of the caterpillar and the butterfly are so very different, then it makes sense that they eat different foods, and that's what they do. The challenge is butterflies require specific host plants for their caterpillars to feed on. In other words, adult butterflies can mate, but if a mother butterfly with an ovary full of egg does not find her specific host plant, there will be no laying of eggs, no new caterpillars, no new butterflies. The mother will die with her ovary full of eggs. If butterflies only lay eggs on specific host plants, how do we know which plants they need? This is where we can help. Where do we start? Which butterflies do you see in your area? Which butterflies live in your area? If you live in an urban suburban setting, the butterflies tend to have multiple broods a year, depend on a combination of non-native plants and irrigation for their continued presence. Some butterflies you might see in an urban setting, Anna swallowtail, Gulf fritillary, and the monarch butterfly as it migrates through. What are some of the butterflies you might see in rural areas? What is the habitat? What native plants grow there? In a rural setting, the habitat niches could be meadows, grassy foothills, chaparral and forest clearings, along stream beds in oak woodlands. In other words, in more or less natural landscapes, rarely in closed canopy forests. Here are some of the butterflies you might well see in a rural area. Besides a correct host plant for caterpillars, what else do we need to attract butterflies? Native nectar plants. So here we are, and this is my Facebook page. Thank you.
Thanks, that was engrossing. I appreciate that. Next, we'll turn to Melinda Walcott of Healdsburg. She's the president of the Healdsburg Garden Club. And Melinda is now promoting a butterflies and bees demonstration garden or gardens that she'll tell you about. So you go ahead, Melinda.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
We can hear
Good.
you now.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. I have to say that this has just come my way since talking with Jay, probably about 10 days ago. So you'll excuse me if I do not have a presentation worthy of what's been presented already. However, I'm a keen gardener. I've been transplanted out to my in-laws' place in Dry Creek 5 years ago. I had a barren landscape, which I've decided to develop instead of a lawn on a barren hillside. I would put in a garden that with both native and non-native plants that would attract both bees and butterflies. I actually have a Dutchman's pipe vine, which grew big enough to attract some pipe vine swallowtail. And I actually saw eggs on the the vine last summer. So I'm doing something well. Pollinators, I try and keep the garden going almost all year round with something for the bees, and occasionally on warm weather, I do see some butterflies out here. I'm not a complete expert on anything. I don't make when you say, well, where's your level of expertise with me? I'm here to tell you, you don't have to be an expert to plant a garden that will attract butterflies and bees. Build it and they will show up. My interest became for the garden club. In developing some land, I will have to go to the town for permission to plant a garden that is educational. And I was happy to hear that teachers would be interested in actually having a program or a garden that their children, students can visit. I would plant it probably with native and non-natives so that the person or gardeners who want to come are not intimidated. Sometimes, no offense to native plants, they're not the most appealing. People want more color. I find that our native wildflowers here in Dry Creek are pretty much blooming now. And by the time May comes around, in the dry season, everything's disappeared. So having irrigation, et cetera, to have a garden that people will admire, but also be beneficial to both bees and butterflies. I'm hoping, I was speaking with another member of the garden club who said she'd like to actually, after we have a garden installed, if the town permits us, that we would have someone stationed out there maybe on a Saturday. It's a big walking path on Grove Street that we could answer questions, and we could have either brochures, et cetera, out so that people could say, have our plants labeled so they could write them down, or have a brochure that they could take the plant list home with them. So that if they wanted to buy seeds or buy plant starts, they could start their own garden at home and make it as easy for them as possible. That's as far as Healdsburg Garden Club is concerned, has gotten. As I said, we're in the we really haven't even begun. We have to first get in touch with the town and make, anything that has to do with a town property has to go through all the proper procedures. We can't just sort of go along like fairy dust and sprinkle seeds along the path and hope for the best. We want it a little bit better than that. Starting seeds, basically, we have a plant sale and we do natives, et cetera. We have to start our seeds for plants in probably December, January to get any kind of a seed start going for a sale. So by handing out seeds to people, we have to also say, you either start them in the fall, hold these off, start them in the fall, or collect your seeds next summer and then start them. Wish us luck. That's all I can say. I'm hoping for the best with this. My garden has developed, and I'm a transplanted gardener from Connecticut. And I have to say the shock for me is how quickly things grow out here in California. That, something that would take us 7 years to get to some reasonable size in your garden, you've got something within 2 years, you have a sizable plant, whether it be a perennial or a shrub, without the maximum amount of fertilizer, et cetera, et cetera. So it's pleasant gardening out here, and it's a great deal of fun to see the different plants and birds and bees that will you build it and you will come. I thank you. Wish me luck.
Good luck, Melinda. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your comments about the timing. Really have to think through when we were planting and when the seeds are distributed, that kind of thing. That's something that we'll have to work out.
You have to look through the cycle of when seeds appear on the plants after the plants have flowered and they develop their seeds. It's not until the fall. And so, and those will have to lay dormant and germinate over the winter. So, and with your annuals, your zinnias and your et cetera, you can sprinkle them in the ground, but you can't really, sometimes your growing season is so short that if you sprinkle them in May or whatever, you're not going to see a flower on them. They're not going to come into bloom until maybe September, just depending.
I think what you're telling us is this is a years-long project.
Yes, there's no instant gratification unless you buy the plants.
Thank you, Melinda, very much.
You're welcome.
Finally, we have with us Cindy Fenton.
By the way, hi, Cindy.
She's there. She's a lifelong gardener and has been the Windsor Garden Club leader at the Town Green Community Garden for the last 12 years. Her project focus now is the Windsor Garden Club's 100 Monarch Way Station project, which she will have to explain because I'm not sure what it is myself. So go ahead, Cindy. And you're muted also. Thank you. Whoops. Cindy, you're still muted.
Okay, I'm unmuted now, right?
There you
Hello?
are. I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, our 100, I got sick in January of 2020, and I laid around and I was reading books. One of the books I read was this, Bringing Nature Home by Doug Tallamy. Anyone who's interested in helping the environment, this will tell you for invertebrates just why it's so important. Incredibly good book. And after that, I thought, we have to do something. As I'm reading, I'm thinking we need to do something for monarchs. They said, pick a species. And so we picked monarchs and decided that we're going to learn how to propagate milkweed. And I had a lot of help from some good mentors at Cal Flora and over in Sonoma. And we planted flats of it. We gave away a lot of it. We planted up 10 flats of milkweed that into 4-inch for distribution. So if people want to have native milkweed, either speciosa or fascicularis, the narrow leaf or the showy, this right here is what it looked like coming out of the flats. We planted up 10 flats of 4-inch and 3-inch. So we got a lot. And this is the showy. You can see the little tiny buds on that now that are starting. But we were just giddy. We are Twitter-pated. We've got springtime Twitter-pation, falling in love with seeing these little plants that are growing. Anyone, we still have a lot of seeds. We bought a lot of seeds from Hedgerow Farms so we could get a whole pound. And we'll be planting those flats up again for another bunch, but we should have enough milkweed. Our hope is that we can find milkweed ambassadors who want to distribute milkweed to neighbors who already have pollinator gardens or drought-tolerant gardens. A lot of people planted xeriscapes, but they didn't necessarily I love seeing what Suzanne did because they don't, the idea of having host plants and nectar plants for the whole butterfly life cycle is really important, but somehow hard for people to quite understand. That was so clear the way she did it. But we're trying to get the plants out there. We thought, we're a garden club and we're gardeners. We'll grow the plants and we'll pass them out. But if you're interested in being an ambassador in your neighborhood, you know, talking to your neighbors and getting plants to them, contact me at C Fenton, Fenton, F as in Frankie, Nton, 1957 at Gmail. And I'll tell you more about the program. But if we can get little corridors going through the neighborhoods, it would be fantastic. And, you know, oh, I should say something too. I'm a leader. I'm not the leader. I was the head leader for a while, but now I'm really focused on this. But we've got an insectary border at our garden club, and I'm finding it at home too. If you have a food garden, let's say you have a home orchard or whatever, or you know, mixing nectar plants in with food garden plants, putting drought tolerant habitat under and around you know, trees. It's a lot of fun, and your garden really comes alive. So with the pollinators, it's just so exciting. And if you're, you know, I think what Melissa says is, or what Melinda said about not all natives have that much curb appeal, is that I found that I'm just new to this, so I'm learning, and that's part of my excitement. This book right here is kind of like the Western Garden, you know, the equivalent of the Western Garden book, only it helps you with design and different species and making choices with native plants. And it's specific to California, and it's Carol Bornstein. But that could get you started really easy trying to do the more garden-friendly natives. We have information too on recommendations for more garden-friendly natives for the home garden that we got from CalFlora. We're so lucky to have CalFlora and a really great native plant society that will, you know, they're very eager to help people make a garden successful that doesn't look like a weedy mess and tell you how to do it. And yeah, so I think you can do both. And there's a lot of good drought tolerant Mediterranean plants that can mix in there too. But yeah, so exciting, Jay, and I love the gamification. But if you want to find out about getting milkweed and other seeds, just contact me and we'll be happy to set you up.
Great. Thanks, Cindy. Very helpful. That actually concludes our speakers' presentations today, but we're now going to open the floor for questions to any of the speakers and to Jay Beckwith, the leader of our Rotary project, the Butterflies and Bees project. You can raise your hand and I can call on you. And once again, you can always put questions into the chat. I noticed there's some activity in the chat and questions and answers are going through there. And Diane, if you want to call attention to anything in the chat, please go ahead and do that.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. I will. This is for Cindy. They're asking, where is the Windsor Community Garden?
Oh, it's on the corner of Joe Rodota Drive and Windsor Road.
Okay, so just kind of right there in the middle of town.
Yeah,
So
we're
it's
very close to the green.
Okay, great. Just north of it, I think. Okay, and then actually I had a question. You showed your little starts that you had from seed. How long did it take between when you planted and what you showed us today?
Okay, these were planted in deep flats. When Recycle Town was still open, I went and got some of they had a big pile of the grape lugs from, you know, the vineyards, and we drilled holes in them and we filled them with like ocean forest or whatever we had around, really, just a potting mix. Sometimes we'd get a yard somewhere, but I have complete directions on how to propagate. We bought a whole big bunch of the seed from Hedgerow, and I still have half of it in the refrigerator. It only, the germination rate isn't really reliable. So, you know, we planted 4 in each 4-inch when we planted them 4-inch, but we sowed it thickly. And this was from last year in probably May. And then it went dormant, and it's starting to come alive now. But we're a little late in doing the dormant separation. We also had a very large plant. We did root cuttings on the showy milkweed. So this would be a second-year plant. But you know, I think you can look at these roots and see that they're vigorous plants. And you wouldn't want to plant this in a well-watered, deep, fertile bed next to your, you know, something that you don't want to get run over. You know, the idea is you plant them where they're not going to get a ton of water. You know, you'll keep them moist for the first couple of years, and then they're going to take off.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, are there other questions, Diane or anybody else? Melinda, I see your hand up. You got to unmute again.
Cindy, could I have your email address again? I got part of it.
Oh, am I unmuted? Yeah.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Yeah, it's C as in cat, F as in Frank, ENTON 1957 @gmail.
Fine.
That's also in the chat.
I also had here, I wanted to point out that Dry Creek actually had a well-known author, Hamilton Tyler, who I met in the 70s, who wrote this book. It was the first book on swallowtail butterflies that was complete. So you might want to look at that in the Healdsburg library, but it's very, very thorough. But we have this one on the shelf. So I can identify at least swallowtails in the garden.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Melinda. Are there other questions? There's our president, Nancy Palumbo. Go ahead, Nancy.
Sorry I'm late. This sounded really interesting. I'm so glad it's recorded, so I'll catch up. But I have a question about the Wetzel family native garden. Does anyone know who manages that? I tried reaching out to Katie Murphy, but I haven't heard back yet. And we were thinking that if we could find a native milkweed or Monarch Butterfly pollinator, that we might see about working in that garden. No one familiar with that?
No, I guess not.
Okay, we'll keep looking.
I wonder, curious, Miles or Isaac, well, first I'm curious about what your reactions may be to some of the projects that you heard discussed today, and whether the Pollinator Partnership can help, or how they could help with those projects.
Yeah, so I can start, and then Isaac can add in. There's a few different ways that we can help. You know, Isaac explained our resources that we have available online, and that's definitely a good place to start. You know, our eco-regional guides are really, really in-depth. They're like 40-something pages a piece for each eco-region, and they go in-depth in native seeds, or native plants, excuse me, what pollinators they're going to attract, bloom timing, you know, a lot of specifications about, you know, how they're going to do and what they're going to bring. We do provide, so we provide consulting services that we can help design habitat. It's a little bit easier on a bigger scale. But we do have consulting services that we can do, you know, for a big project, or it can be smaller advice. Just reach out to us and we can connect you with the right people who can help out with that. But great job. It's exciting to see, and definitely get involved and communicate with us.
Isaac, did you want to add something, or are you okay with that?
Yeah, I think Miles covered it well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the eco-regional plant guides seem to be a real resource that we could use, that others can use.
Yeah, definitely. Is that a free resource or is that something that costs money?
No, they're free. So if you just go to our resource tab on our website, I can, Isaac, do you want to pull up the link and post it in the chat? You can just type in your zip code and it'll give you a PDF for the region. Healdsburg is kind of in an area where there's going to be a few overlap of different ones. So you'll definitely want to try out, a few different zip codes in the region and compare the two, just because it's an interesting spot. I'm actually from Sebastopol myself, so I'm a local Sonoma County person. So it's a good spot for plants. There's a lot of different diversity that can go in, it's fantastic.
Right. I'm not seeing other hands, and I think it's about time for us to wrap up, unless somebody has one more question. That'd be it.
There is a question here from someone in Healdsburg. She's interested in putting in a basic butterfly garden for her family. And she's seen seed packets at a local garden store. And I'm wondering if that's a good place to go. But maybe I think we may have just answered that by kind of going back through the eco-regional guides, checking, maybe comparing what's in that package versus what Miles is recommending. Is that probably the best way to go?
Yeah, that's definitely a good place to start. I'd also recommend sometimes seed mixes that are kind of more general aren't going to be, so plants do well when you get the seeds or the plants from the area that you're trying to plant them in. So sometimes, especially with natives, if you can source them from a nursery that's close, that is growing them in your area, and if the seed source is actually from your area, their plants are going to do better when you plant them. So there are a few, growers. Hedgerow in the valley is great. It's a little bit different environment, but it's going to be pretty close. There's a few other seed suppliers. Harmony Farms in Sebastopol is a good one as well. I would try to say, if you can get seeds or plants from your area, that's going to be the best that you could definitely do. Yeah.
And another thing that I wanted to point out is that our guides are designed as a starting point, and the plants listed there are supposed to be effective throughout the entire ecoregion. So there are likely a lot of other native plants for the Healdsburg area specifically that aren't in the guide. So we often recommend talking to native plant growers and native nurseries in your area also.
Great. Thanks to both of you. I think we're going to wind this down now. I want to thank our speakers, Katrina, Miles, Isaac, Suzanne, Melinda, and Cindy, for being with us today and sharing their experience. You see on your screen, I believe, a poll that Lance has posted. Please answer those questions. It'll just take a moment. It'll help us to figure out what things people are interested in and what we do next. So please answer the poll questions. I also want to give a big, huge shout out to Jay Beckwith, who, as I said, has shepherded this project since its inception, and he put together the program for today's Zoom meeting. I'm just the mouthpiece. Without Jay, none of us would be here. So kudos to Jay for setting this up. And so where do we go from here? This meeting has been recorded. The recording will be available, well, I'll say soon. I don't know, Lance, when. I think it's going to be on the group Facebook page, Healdsburg Pollinators. Is that right?
I'll probably upload it to YouTube, and we'll link to it from the group page.
Okay, so you can look for that there or refer people to it. The next informational Zoom meeting was and maybe it still is, Jay can help me, tentatively scheduled for February 23rd at 3. I think it's a week from today. Is that going to happen, Jay, or are we going to move that back?
That's accurate.
Okay. Well, my information is Tuesday, February 23rd at 3 p.m. The topic will be the bee's knees. Ha ha. We'll be discussing honeybees and native bees and their habitat. And we hope to use some breakout rooms for that meeting so people can actually chat about various topics in a smaller group. So stay tuned for the announcement of the meeting and the Zoom link. And as I said, the Rotary Club of Healdsburg Sunrise plans to get started distributing seeds and starts. They may have to, in early March, they may have to sit for months before they go on the ground. I don't know. But, we're going to get started on that soon. And I want to thank you all for being here. I hope this was helpful to you, and many thanks for attending.
I see that Marilyn had a comment, just.
A question, please. Larry, I believe this is for you. You spoke very early in the meeting about poppies are good plants. Are you talking like California poppies, the orange kind?
I'm not the horticulturist, but I was reading about that. So someone can maybe help on that.
Well, one thing I could tell you is I have oriental poppies, and bees go crazy for the pollen. And we have someone getting there. I don't know if Miles knows Lauren Russert. She's doing research on queen bees, but she was telling me that the pollen is a really high source of nectar, a powerful source of nectar for bees, and they go crazy inside of the oriental poppies. And if anyone wants oriental poppy seed, we collected it after, and we have beautiful, deep wine red oriental poppy seed. If anyone wants some poppy seed, mine are starting to come up right now. You could probably throw some of that out. Some of this stuff that you worry about, you can that you wouldn't have to stratify. But if you do have some native seeds, you can keep them in the refrigerator. You can fool them into thinking they were cold. I mean, there are tricks that you can do to have more success with germination. But we have seeds and things that we're happy to share. So
that's great. Thank you. All right, I think this meeting is at an end. Thank you so much again for everyone being there, and we'll hopefully see you next time.